Dione. My name is Terrones, and I'm the founder of Life Stages. We're an outdoor health service designed to use outdoor adventure and behavioral health research to help you work on your physical, mental, and social emotional well-being. I'm a former mental health clinician specializing in complex trauma and psychology researcher with an emphasis in outdoor adventure. Life Stages was inspired by my own experience in the great outdoors, as well as a synthesis of over 10 years of working in outdoor education, therapy, and research. I'm super excited to have Dion from Caliber D Fitness here with us today, who not only is an amazing person, but just an amazing fitness and wellness professional. And I'm super psyched to kind of brainstorm and learn more about how she approaches health, fitness, and well being. Dion, why don't you introduce yourself and the amazing work you do in health and wellness in the Bay Area?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Zolma. I'm so excited to be here. Like Zolma said, my name is Dion. I'm the founder of Caliber D Fitness, which is a fitness company based in San Francisco. So I teach boot camp and also dance cardio classes under Caliber D. And then I also am just a local fitness trainer. So I work at True Fusion, a studio in San Francisco teaching classes. And I also teach online for a digital studio called HoodFit. So I am always teaching classes and running around, but I just love getting to meet new people, getting to introduce them to different modes of fitness and help them to do that in a really fun way. My brand motto is 100% happy. So the idea behind that is life is hard, life is difficult, and it's not always fun. But whenever you step into one of my classes, I want you to be able to set everything else aside and just have that 1 hour of being happy, of feeling strong, of feeling powerful. So that is the idea behind Caliber D Fitness. And I try to bring that energy and that motivation and mindset into all of my classes.
I love that. Thank you for that. And I've definitely gone to some of your classes. I can say you definitely bring that energy and that like happiness to it. It's always such a joy to be in your classes, and I'm excited for the audience to get to know and see more of that as well. Yeah, shall we dive into kind of like these questions? Does that sound good
Yeah,
to you?
that sounds good.
Awesome. As a fitness professional, how do you relate to the concepts of being fit and physically healthy? And has this evolved at all throughout time?
Yeah, thanks for that first question. Um, yeah, so the idea of being healthy, I think really has a couple dynamics. I think it's about your mental health, your physical health, and also your spiritual health. So it's this trifecta of like mind, body, and spirit. And I think it's about finding balance in all of those things. And what I love about fitness is that it can really help us to find that balance because as you go through workouts and as you start to exercise you can change the energy within your body and so you can like de-stress, right? Exercise is really shown to be something that helps with depression and also anxiety. So I see fitness as something that can help the spiritual health and also the mental health. And then when all of those things are in alignment and when they're all correct, then you actually find health. I think where some people can get tripped up is the idea that just looking physically fit is what is healthy. But if I look physically fit, but I have a bad relationship and I'm really stressed out, then I'm not really healthy. So I think I try to look at health from this holistic, like balanced position. And I'm trying to find that balance in my life. And that's what makes me feel healthy. And in terms of like, has it evolved over the years? Absolutely, very, very much. And I know we'll be talking about that more later on throughout the interview. But I used to have a very like basic view of health. And I thought health was one way and I thought being fit looked one way and there was only one way to do it. And so for me, it made fitness very kind of grueling and not that much fun and kind of like it had to be one way. And what I learned throughout the years is like fitness should fit into your lifestyle and your lifestyle changes throughout time. And so if you're actually approaching fitness from a healthy place, the way you engage with fitness is going to change as your life changes. And it's actually a good sign because it means that fitness is an integral part of your life and you can adapt it as you go through life. So it will always be with you. So that's really how I approach fitness. And then in terms of like what motivates me to stay fit, a lot of people are always like, well, how do you like find the motivation to actually stay fit, which is a great question. For me, I love the feeling of empowerment that I get from being fit and from working out. There's really this strength that comes from going through your workouts, from going through those moves. I'm someone who is not naturally like super aggressive or assertive, I would say. But when I get to work out, it's like I'm in control of my body. I'm in control of the energy that I'm putting out, the intensity that I'm putting out. So it's really this level of like autonomy and independence that I find. And it also allows you to tap into a different side of yourself, right? Like I said, I'm not super aggressive, but I can do a really hardcore aggressive workout. And it helps me to kind of build that other side of myself. So that's something that I really love about fitness and that like is important to me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, that all of that really resonates. And I think that, for my own personal experience in trying to really build out life stages, that's also something that we try to tap into is that, as you were saying, you change, you adapt, you evolve throughout life. You're going through all these different chapters. And so your needs are changing. How are you evolving with those needs? So it's great to hear that, yeah, fitness and health isn't rigid, but flexible. And as you grow, that concept grows with you.
Yes.
And yeah, likewise, as well tapping into different areas or different aspects, different factors of your personality, or even things that maybe you didn't even know you had, as you're saying, right? Maybe you don't see yourself as a very aggressive, very like high intensity person, but then you try this course, you try a class, you try something out, fitness wise, and you're like, wow, that's a whole new side of me. So yeah, personal development, I can totally see how that ties in as well. Thank you for that. Our next question is if you see, and if you do see a connection between mental health and physical health, what is that connection? And how do you maintain a balance between both?
Yeah. Um, so I think it's so cool because physical activity is like always accompanied by mental activity because just like as you're moving your body, your blood starts to flow. And so that's like a component. But then also you have like chemicals that are released in your brain. You have endorphins, which is why you get that like exercise high after working out, which I love. It's very addicting. Like you should definitely try it out if you haven't. Um, but so there's always a mental component that accompanies your physical activity. And so there's definitely a connection between the two. And even if you think about whenever you're nervous for an event or a speech or whatever, it's something you're nervous about, like you feel it in your gut, you feel it in your stomach. So, like, that really helps to remind us, like, yeah, there's this connection between our mind and our body. And there's been so many studies shown, like, if you're depressed or if you're anxious, exercise is something that can help with that. So, I really see physical activity as a way to kind of get out of your head and into your body. Because sometimes we have so much energy in our minds, like we're thinking so many different thoughts and we tend to go in circles a lot. And like all of that energy being in your brain, it's not helpful most of the time. And so I try to think about transitioning that energy and those thoughts from being in my mind to actually going into my workout, right? So, like, if I'm angry about something and that anger and that emotion is in my head, then I'll do a really intense workout and like put the energy into the workout, right? And like get it out of my mind because it's not serving me there. And then likewise, on the flip side, if I'm like, maybe I'm really tired or I'm sad or something, I will get that energy out maybe through dance or through yoga or through something that's softer, but like using physical activity as a way to kind of adjust your mental activity also is definitely a connection I see between the two. And then the last thing that I want to say on this subject is we also have to be aware that sometimes we can kind of impair our physical progress because of our mindset, because the mind is so powerful. And so many of the struggles that you see in regards to fitness is because people have kind of mindset traps, right? Or people have fallen into certain ways of viewing themselves. And so just having really respect for the mind and knowing that it's so powerful and that it can inform how we view ourselves can help us to be more careful with our thoughts so that we can actually perform at optimal levels and be happy in that mind, body, spirit area.
Yeah, no, love that. Love what you're saying. I definitely agree. It's such an intimate connection, the mind and the body, both kind of interact and influence each other. As you're saying, you can be healthy in one aspect, right? And then unhealthy in another. And so, really having that holistic, what am I doing to make sure that all aspects of myself, all aspects of my health are doing well and stable and keep growing? Nice. I love that. Well, I think that I feel like you hinted on is like this idea of mindsets and how impactful the mind can be on our objective reality. And so it kind of takes me back to growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. So in psychology, um, you know, there's this concept of approaching and perceiving the world in potentially two very different ways. One where things are fixed and unmovable, especially when approaching new challenges. So, for example, if um, I'm trying out a new class, a new workout class, and I totally am missing the reps or missing the rhythm, I can think, oh, wow, I just suck at this specific class, right? I just don't have the rhythm, or I don't have the mental capacity or the physical capacity to do that. And while that can be true in certain instances, sometimes it really is our mindset of like being too potentially in our heads or too doubtful of ourselves or not necessarily believing in ourselves enough. And then there's this other concept of approaching challenges or discomfort from an area of curiosity and learning and growth. Not necessarily thinking, oh, I failed at this or this was challenging and therefore I'm not good at it, but rather I need to kind of inspect what I can do differently to grow and learn from this and maybe improve these skills. So it seems like you have kind of tapped into this growth versus fixed mindset. Would you say that resonates at all with you? And if so, how?
Yeah, 100%. And I love the way that you explain that. I think you did a wonderful job, and it can be so applicable in so many areas of our lives. And so obviously we're talking about fitness, and so that's what we want to focus on here. And you're just so right, spot on about how your mindset, it informs how you show up to something. It's like your first step in a race, right? Like is how your mind thinks about something. And in fitness, we see so often like people, as you're saying, showing up to a class and feeling fearful and like channeling that fearful energy, or someone who looks in the mirror and is like, I don't like how I look, thus I'm like not lovable. And um I can come up with those examples because I've been that person, I've always been active, but I've not always loved fitness and loved activity the way I do now. Because when I was younger, when I was like back in high school, I definitely had that fixed mindset of fitness. And I was looking at, what is portrayed in society is like what is beautiful and what is the standard of fitness and, quote unquote health. And I was like, well, I don't look like that. I want to try to change my body so that I can be like that, because I have this objective of like wanting to be accepted or wanting to prove that I'm disciplined or whatever it was. And so I took a very narrow view of fitness that, okay, I have to do XYZ every day. I have to eat XYZ every day. And thus, that will be what will make me healthy. And when you're doing that, it can create like almost like a prison. It's like you are being so hard on yourself and nothing is good enough. And you are always, like measuring things, and you're just so obsessive and so harsh that you're not actually enjoying movement for the sake of movement. And going back to earlier in our discussion, you're not even healthy because even if your body maybe is starting to look the way that you want it to look, your mind is not healthy because you might be consumed by fear or consumed by doubt or anxiety or anger, right? And then a lot of the times when we have those thought processes, our body doesn't even end up being healthy because, for me, I ended up having an eating disorder, and then I was under eating and I wasn't serving my body properly. So there's like so much around why having a growth mindset is the way to go. Um, but the cool thing about my story is, like in any good story, the hardest part leads to the best part. And so when I was dealing with all of these challenges, I got the amazing opportunity to work with some awesome like clinical psychologists and health psychologists. And as I worked with them, we started to examine my thought process more and my mindset more. And that was where I fell into the concept of growth mindsets and I started to learn about them. And this is what makes me so excited about fitness, because by working through those mindsets, I was able to learn that fitness can be freeing and that it can be fun and that it's about health. It's not about some external standard. And it's about doing movement, really for like the sake of the movement, because you like it, because it's enjoyable. Um, and so when I found that place of freedom, I really wanted to just share it with the world, which is what led to me launching Caliber D, and which is why I'm here talking with you. So I definitely 100% relate to growth mindsets. I think they're so powerful in fitness. And just yeah, and there is like, there's always hope for anyone. I want to say, like, if I could get to a growth mindset from where I was, then I think that anyone can. And so I think we're going to talk about some tips later on, but like, don't be discouraged wherever you are. Like, there is always growth, right? There's always room to move further ahead and to learn more and grow more.
Definitely, definitely, definitely resonate with that. I agree. Always room for improvement. Doesn't mean that we're not doing our best, but yeah, we can always learn and grow and adapt. And I feel like you hit on a very essential point, which is that health and fitness and wellness just looks so different for everyone because we all have very different needs. And so, yeah, again, how we physically feel or look, sorry, but also how we are emotionally feeling, how we're connecting, creating bonds with others, and how our mental health is doing. So that's going to look so different from everyone depending on what their goals are, where they are in their life. So again, I love that you're just highlighting the importance of knowing yourself, the importance of really working to be your own true self and the best version of who you can be in all aspects. Love that. It seems like growth mindset is super important. I totally agree. But what has been super challenging, or anything has anything been challenging in adopting these growth mindsets for you?
Yeah, I would say it's very, very challenging because like the whole idea of a mindset is like a set of thoughts. And so it's to get to a growth mindset, you have to like change your thought process essentially, right? Because you want to change that instinctual thought of when you look in the mirror and you're like, I don't like how I look in this, or you show up to class and you're like, I'm fearful. The idea of getting to a growth mindset is to be able to speak over that thought and to eventually start to like turn down the volume on that thought. So yes, it's a lot of work for sure. And I would say a couple of the main challenges that, at least for me, came up in this area when I was trying to progress towards a growth mindset would number one be dealing with society, which is like sounds very broad, but like society really has pushed this narrative on us for a long time of like what health means and what being healthy looks like. And it's one type of body and it's low calorie this, low calorie that, green juice this, right? There's kind of this narrative. And a lot of movies kind of will make fun of it sometimes and like make this trope of this character who's like this weird healthy person. But like that is really the image that's pushed on us throughout all like commercials and throughout grocery stores and things like that. And I think society is starting to get a little bit better, but definitely people like my age and your age, like that's kind of what we grew up around. And so when you're constantly pushed with the idea of like this is one thing that is health and this is what will make you happy, then it's very difficult because a growth mindset says actually let me see what's best for my life, and that might not be true. And so you have to kind of rewire your brain to kind of like have a little cautionary sign pop up when you have all of these signals, right? And now we have Instagram and Facebook and all of these platforms which are showing us like, oh, this is how you should look or you could look with this filter or whatever. And you kind of have to stop yourself and be like, okay, maybe that's what they're saying, but A, it's not necessarily true. And then B, even if it is true, maybe it's not true for me. Like maybe it's not helpful for me. And so it's kind of learning to put up boundaries in a sense of like what you're going to allow into your brain and then what you're going to internalize for yourself. And so this takes me to my second like challenge of achieving a growth mindset, which can even be just like friend groups or social circles, because everyone's definition of health is different and because like what health for them like it feels different for each person. um we have to respect that, and sometimes it can be really tempting to internalize someone else's definition, right? So like you might have someone who's like, oh, like I went for a run, like now I can't eat pizza, and like, and me personally, like I don't speak to myself that way. I don't resonate with that. Like that's not helpful for me. I'm someone who's like, I run because I want to go for a run and I eat pizza because I want to eat pizza. And I don't really equate the two of like I had one this, I can have the other. But someone else, like if that's the way they want to think, like that's their own prerogative. I don't need to internalize that because they said that, oh, that's if I'm going to eat pizza, thus I should go for a run. Like their comment had nothing to do with me, but I think we're really, really, as humans, we kind of, we're like selfish in the way we think everything comes back to us. And we don't mean it in a selfish way, but we just kind of internalize things. So I think learning not to internalize other people's comments and other people's definitions of health or society's definition of health, that's kind of how you get to a growth mindset, and it's very challenging and it takes a lot of time to overcome that, but I think those are two challenges I would say that are pretty paramount in this growth mindset process.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I totally agree. Yeah, society has an interesting way of just kind of molding our thoughts and pushing certain narratives. And I'm super grateful though that although with social media there is more pressure, there's also more like a more of an insider alternative look into other versions of health and wellness. And so yeah, what does that look like, and different body types can still be healthy even though that's not the social norm narrative that's being pushed. So I love that. And I agree, your social circles are so important. They do influence the way we approach things, but it's you're right. It's so important to really have those boundaries. Know what's valuable to you, what you're going to internalize or what you're trying to not internalize, as you're saying, and really know kind of your relationship with all of those health aspects, to make sure that you're staying within your own boundaries, which can be challenging. I agree. Speaking of how hard that can be, do you have any tips, anything that you would like to share on how to try to cultivate a growth mindset?
Yeah, I do. So I love this question because as I said, I went through a lot of the weeds and a lot of the hard parts. So I'm excited to talk about this. As I was saying, like a growth mindset, it really is the first thing in fitness. The first thought that you have is the thought that you want to kind of conquer. And so I like to kind of use this wheat field analogy. So like if you're out in like, I don't know, Iowa or somewhere where there's a wheat field and all the wheat is like grown and tall. Whenever you walk down one path, you like tread down the wheat, right? And then you go through it again, and you go through it again, and it's treaded down more and more. And then it's like the only path in the field. So you walk down it. And so when you have an initial thought process, it's like walking down that path of wheat once. And then you continue to go down and down it, and it gets more and more trodden. So your fixed mindset is like just going down one path all the time. You show up to class, you look in the mirror, you're like, I don't like how I look. I shouldn't be here. And I'm afraid that I can't do it. Right. So maybe those are the three things you tell yourself. And every time you tell yourself those thoughts, you are like walking down that path in the wheat fields, and you're actually signaling to your brain that that's a valid route. Like that is a route that like sign is open, like there's no road closed sign. It's like go down it. And so every time you do, it's easier and easier to go down it, and it's harder and harder to go down another route. So in order to achieve a growth mindset, what you want to do is address that thought right when it pops up and not even walk down the route. You want to introduce a new route. So you might show up to class, you're like, your first thought is, I don't like how I look. I'm fearful about this class. And you want to immediately notice the thought, which even takes practice just to notice those thoughts. So you want to notice that thought. And then secondly, you want to say, okay, that might be how I'm feeling. And that's okay. Like I recognize that that's how I'm feeling. But what would be helpful in this situation is to say, I'm proud of myself for showing up. I'm proud of myself for showing up. I am excited to be here. I am committed. I'm going to put in good energy. So you just for the first time, you walk down a new path in the wheat field, and the other path is still more well trodden. So when you show up for the second time, you're still going to want to go down the, oh, I'm fearful path, but you got to immediately notice that thought and then walk back down. Wait, I'm proud of myself to be here. I came once, I did it once, I can do it once again. And so all of this to say, you always want to notice the old thought, right? The thought that's of the fixed mindset. You want to notice it, and you want to immediately replace it with something that's actually helpful. And the more and more that you do that, you will start to find that your brain starts to be rewired to going down the new route, the route of the growth mindset. And this isn't to say that that you're not feeling what you're feeling, right? You might actually be feeling fearful because like all of your thoughts are they're all valid. Like you are allowed to feel or think whatever you think, but not all of the thoughts are helpful, right? And so going down that I'm fearful route or I don't deserve to be here, that's not helpful in any way. And even if you want to change your body, like that's fine, right? I'm a fitness instructor. People come to me because they want to change their body. And so like that's okay. Like you can do that even with this mindset. But I think where a lot of people get tripped up is they think that by changing their body, they'll change how they relate to their body, right? And I think that's really not true because as I was talking about with the wheat field, the way you speak to yourself is it starts to become instinctual, it starts to become habitual. So if you are always used to telling yourself you don't look good, even if you change and like, objectively it seems like you look better, your instinctual reaction is to still keep saying, I don't look good, I don't look good, I'm not enough, right? And so you want to cultivate this practice of actually being healthy and actually being proud of yourself and actually being confident in who you are. Because if we're just being honest, like your body's going to change all the time, right? Even in the morning to at night, your body is changing. And so you want to like practice this way of showing up for yourself and even start to separate, like, okay, get away from the body. Like, I'm proud of the energy I put into that class. I'm proud of the way that I showed up, right? And you start to speak to yourself that way more. And then when you actually get to your goal, like weight or your goal body image or whatever it is, you'll actually be able to speak to yourself in a good way. And so like all of this is coming back to the growth mindsets and how you speak over yourself and how you overcome those hard thoughts. And it's not always easy to do by any means, but it's really this habitual pattern. And then the last thing I just want to say is at the beginning, it's very, very difficult. And it's kind of almost a fake it till you make it thing. Like you might feel like I'm lying to myself, like I'm not proud of myself. I'm scared, and you just got to keep doing it. It's like working a muscle, right? I do tricep extensions for 2 days. I'm not going to see my tricep like right away, but you keep doing it because you know that that's the right exercise to get the result that you want. And so you just keep replacing those thoughts. You keep walking down that new path until that path is much more available. And then the other one starts to have that road closed sign of just like, no, like this is not a path anymore. This is like grown over with weeds and we don't go that way anymore. So this is my biggest tip in that area that I can share.
I love that. I love that. And I love your analogy about the wheat fields. I think that's such a great way of explaining neural pathways and the way that, yeah, like our brain automatically goes through a specific pattern of thinking or a specific a pattern of behavior because it's so habitual, right? And we've grown used to it. And that is like what we do. Our brain just automatically goes there. And I agree, it takes such a long time, so much effort and work and intentionality to create these new pathways of thinking, new pathways of behaviors. Um, but I love the way that you're incorporating, yeah, just some therapeutic skills as well, just like identifying, recognizing, revising or reframing, and then kind of leaning into that new perspective. I feel like I hear a lot of CBT, DBT, cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, dialectical behavioral therapy techniques. So I love that. Um, and I agree. Sometimes what I hear a lot from other people as well that are trying to cultivate a growth mindset is this idea of faking it till you make it, right? Which is a funny way of saying it, but yeah, sometimes you don't relate to the affirmations that you're trying to give yourself or the affirmations that other people are trying to give you, but really trying to at least listen, hear them, and see how can I resonate, if at all, and then trying to practice that until you actually lean into them and actually believe them because eventually your brain, as you're saying, those neural pathways do connect, and then that becomes the norm, that becomes the baseline. Great tips, thank you for that. um, well, I guess we're kind of reaching the end, but really, to close off, what are some of your favorite ways of staying healthy year round?
Yeah. So obviously I teach a lot of classes, so that is really fun for me. My favorite things are dance cardio and also trampoline cardio, which is just a really like joyous way to work out. So I teach a lot of classes. In addition to that, I like to go on hikes and get outside. One of my resolutions is to do that a little bit more. And in addition to those things, I like to find things that like motivate me to get moving because I think that helps me to just like actually get it in and get going. Um, and so music is really big for me. Like I love to program workouts to music. I'm a dancer, and so I really connect to music. And I think music can be really helpful in getting us like out of our minds and into our bodies and like establishing that connection to our souls. So I use music a lot as a way to um get myself moving more and to feel good. Um, and then another way that I like to try to stay healthy is by finding like a way of eating that actually tastes good and that I'm actually okay with, that's like sustainable. And so for me, like I love sugar. I'm not shy about it. So I try to have like a little bit of dessert every day. And it could even just be like a Yoplait yogurt that like has a little bit of sugar is better than plain yogurt or something like that. But I just try to make sure that my diet is actually something that I am like fine with eating because then it's actually sustainable and that's such a big aspect of fitness is like your lifestyle has to be sustainable. There's no point in going on like a 30-day diet just to like go back to your regular eating plan, then you didn't really achieve anything. So definitely like having a diet that I enjoy is important for me. Also fitness classes. Like I'm a trainer, like I can put a good workout together, like I can force myself to do it, but sometimes it's just easier to have someone else like pushing you. So I'm trying to enroll in more classes, and there's a certain joy in going to like a social atmosphere and being with other people, and I love it when it's like a club vibe and it's loud music. So definitely like going to class, having someone push you is a way that I stay fit. And then the last way is kind of a newer thing I've developed, and I've called it like the so what attitude. And what I mean by that is sometimes you might be in the middle of a workout or towards the end of a workout and you're getting to a hard section. And obviously, like it's really important to listen to your body. And there are days when I'm like, I just want to like take it easy. And then there are days where I'm like, I want to push. I want to see how hard I can push. And as you're starting to push, you get to the point where it's very challenging and you kind of have to decide, okay, I either tap out now where it's like I've reached my limit or I'm going to push through. And I try to ask myself the question like, okay, it's hard. So what? Like what does that mean? Like it's hard. Yes, there are a lot of hard things in life. There are a lot of challenging things. Like, I kind of tell myself, all right, it's hard. Nobody cares. Keep doing it. And so in my workouts, I just kind of ask myself, like, okay, so what is hard? Like that doesn't mean you stop. That just means it's like it's an adjective. Okay, this is a hard situation. This is a hard exercise. It doesn't really mean that my behavior changes in any way. So I use that as a way to kind of push myself and spur myself on throughout my workouts, and as a way to try to like just push myself when I'm feeling what I want to push.
Thank you for that. I love that. And I love this idea of, yeah, really using your workouts not to maybe see them as barriers or stopping points, but really asking, okay, yeah, it's hard. So what? That's an adjective. And really kind of reflecting it into your own everyday life. Kind of something that Life Stages tries to do with our outdoor adventures is we scaffold them in difficulty, but really trying to do it in a way that whatever you're working on physically, then you can relate it to your everyday life. And what I heard from your example was, okay, it's hard. Life is hard, right? This is not unusual. And if I can kind of show up here well with a good mindset and push through it, then I have that resiliency built so that I can then also bring it into my everyday life and those difficult challenges that might come up.
Yes, absolutely.
Are there any new ways that you might be trying out health and fitness this year that you might want to share?
Yeah. So my big thing is I want to get into like some more competitions. Because as I teach like a class, like it's very collaborative and like I'm the biggest cheerleader and I love that. But I used to be a competitive athlete in high school. I did track and cross country. So I want to like start doing some 5Ks and maybe some cycling races and just kind of um getting back into that like athlete competitor mode. So I'm excited about doing that. I also want to kind of start trying out some winter sports. I haven't skied since I was like 7 years old, but I think that's a great way to be out in nature to work your body in a new way. So, want to try the winter sports and then also just get more walks in. Like, living like in the city of San Francisco, like the downtown area, it's kind of hard to get outdoors and feel like I'm in nature. And then it gets dark early. So it's hard to go for walks and stuff, but I would like to start doing that more. And, walking is even such an underrated thing. Like just walking for 30 minutes a day, like adding a little bit more movement can be really beneficial. So I want to work on that a little bit more too.
Nice, awesome. I love that. And yeah, I agree. Races, competitions are such a great way to just work on your physical health and again your mental, but also create that community, create those social bonds, and feel like okay, I'm working out with a group of other like-minded health individuals. That's amazing. Thank you for that. And I love that you're also trying out winter sports, or like that's a goal of trying out winter sports, more connection to nature. With Life Stages, we definitely feel like there's a connection between nature and health, and that one influences the other, kind of like mental health and physical health. What's your relationship with nature, and how do you see any connections, if any, to yeah, general wellness and health?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that Life Stages is all about nature. Like even just your website being so nature focused is like an internal breath of fresh air when you're inside. Um, but yes, no, I love nature, and I feel that it's really a reminder for me, like kind of like how small I am, that the world is so great. There is so much beyond us and outside of us, and it's kind of humbling to a large extent, I would say. Also, there's this atmosphere of like stillness when you get like out into the mountains. So you really like get away from the highways and stuff, and you're just in nature. And I think that that is very beneficial for us as humans who are so busy. And it really, for me, it like connects down with my soul. I'm also someone who likes to write. So I like to write when I'm in nature and kind of just hear the sounds and like use all five senses to feel what's around you. And then finally, being outdoors, there's this sense of like fresh air and new oxygen that, especially when you're living in the city, you just don't get. And so when you like are outside in like nature and breathing in that fresh air, for me, it really reminds me like every breath is like new, right? Like you are always bringing in new oxygen. You are always like changing like what you're bringing into your body, and you can kind of carry that analogy and like you're always changing as a person, and that's like okay, that's good. It's good to have like fresh things in life. And so um I think this idea of like newness resonates with me in nature.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I definitely resonate with all of that. And I would also throw in maybe like the cyclical patterns of the seasons, right? I feel like, at least myself, I definitely like go through sort of energy levels that kind of the season, winter and fall. I'm like way more relaxed, more of like, ooh, let me stay inside. Let me try to find like indoor workouts, but still trying to enjoy nature for sure, because it's so important to have that fresh air, to have that remoteness, to have like that peace of mind, and yeah, be able to disconnect, as you're saying, to reset and refresh. Nice. Well, to close off, and before we jump into any like audience questions, do you have any tips around fitness, how to maintain it throughout the year? Anything, yeah, that you just kind of want to share in terms of tips and recommendations for people?
Yeah, I think my number one tip for staying fit is to really find an activity that you love. I think there are a lot of people who are just like, I don't like going to the gym, or I just don't like working out. And that's fine. But there are so many ways of being active. Like I said, even just walking, or if you like cycling, if you like dancing, right? If you like yoga, taking your dog to the park, going for a run, like they're really rock climbing. There are like so many options. So I would like challenge people not to limit yourself and just say, oh, I don't like push-ups and sit-ups. Like not that many people do. I do, but not that many people do. So that's okay. Like find something that works for you. And then once you find that thing, keep doing it, right? And don't fall into the trap of like, oh, I should be lifting weights, I should be running, I should be whatever. Like we're not all trying to be bodybuilders. So like the key to being healthy for you is find something you like and then keep doing it. And then if you're practicing things that you're not liking, that aren't making you happier, I would say maybe reevaluate those things and find something that is. Because the whole point of being healthy is to feel good from the inside out, and you have total permission to change what you like. You have permission to try new things. And so I just like want to encourage people, like fitness should be something that does make you happy, right? It's about like taking care of ourselves and like almost like giving yourself like a little hug, right? Like you're protecting what is yours. Like your body is the one thing in life that you possess, so it's definitely worth taking care of, and also being kind to, right? So we want to do all of this from a place of kindness and love and growth. So that would be my tip that I would want to leave people with.
Thank you for that. That is such a great way to kind of close things off. I agree. Your body is so sacred, and to come from a place of love, from a place of like healing, and really wanting to support your body, which carries you throughout life, is so essential. Thank you for that, Dion. Really appreciate you. So you can learn about life stages and a bit about myself and the inspiration behind life stages at our website. So that's www.lifestages.us. And you'll see different pages where you'll get different forms of information on there, as well as some upcoming events in the spring. One of them is a spring boot camp with Dion and Caliber D Fitness. So super excited for that.
So I also have a website. It's caliberdfitness.com. You can go on there and learn more about upcoming classes I have, also personal training and mindset coaching, which mindset coaching is ties into a lot of things that we talked about today. So if any of that sounded interesting or you have questions about it, that would be a great place to go. Also, my Instagram, Caliber D Fitness, is a great place to just see what I'm up to throughout the week. I post motivational inspiration, also workout schedules. And finally, like I said, I am an instructor here in San Francisco. So True Fusion, I teach there 4 times a week. And then I teach in the luxury apartment building 399 Fremont Street. So that is also open to the public for classes. So twice a week, you can join me there. And then finally, I'm part of a digital studio called HoodFit. You can go to the website, hoodfitlife.com, learn more about our online studio where you can access classes from anywhere in the world, or also do workouts on your own time.